Mulberry. Always get rid of the stem. They like to hang around. Anyway, in our last video, we talked about some pretty cool stuff. And hopefully we answered some of your questions. But we've got some more serious questions for you guys to try to see what the graybeards are talking about, what they're thinking in their crazy prepper minds, tinfoil hat brains, things like that. So today, we're going to talk about two things. One, what will the government, whoa, those trees, what will the government take under their control in the event of a nuclear war? And will our military turn on us? Valid questions. Going to be difficult, going to be controversial. We're going to get into that. But before we do that, do me a favor. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let the YouTube algorithm know we're not playing games. We're here to stay. All right, let's get into it.
Tag, this one's for you. What is the most important asset a government should secure in the event of a nuclear war? I know you're all about the government taking stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the grid, right, would probably be the biggest one because it's the one that will have the biggest impact on society. And I'm just assuming you're talking about a good government that looks out for its people. Because if what we're talking about is our government, what they're probably going to secure is their own asses. Right. So from their perspective, they're going to secure their own asses. But what they should be securing is a way for the grid to continue on because, you know, generators need to run, hospitals need to run, schools need to run, things need to happen.
Anybody else?
Which perspective?
I said I wasn't going to answer questions. This is one I got to say something on. Having worked for the government as long as I have, the number one priority of any government, I don't care whether it's your local, state, federal, continuity of government. They're going to seize the assets that will allow them to maintain control. All right. And what those assets are, I don't know. It's different in every region.
Yeah, but the question said, what should they secure?
Grumpy Acres, freeze-dried Skittles. Duh.
Oh, those will go a long way.
Yeah.
Well, from a government standpoint, they should secure everything that's going to help them maintain control.
Yeah.
Right?
No, from a government, what they should do is take care of the people that they serve. I don't serve them. They serve me. Period.
See, I would love to get some Kansas politicians on here with you to have that discussion. That would be awesome.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, next question. Let's go to local prepper here. I did not do this one on purpose. I'm serious.
Oh, Jesus. Here we go.
Describe the average person in the military today. If given a choice, do you think the majority would stand up for what is morally right, or would they do what they were told, and why? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, I've got to be honest with you. I'm a little conflicted. So, my gut tells me that, first of all, I was a Marine recruiter. So I know a little bit about the character of the people that were put in, and, regardless if they went into, because of college money, a lot of them will say that, they're trying to find a job. The economy sucks, whatever it is, because I recruited in good times and bad times. Overall, once they leave recruit training, they're pretty much, as brainwashed is going to get, but they're brainwashed to the code of conduct. They're brainwashed to honor, courage, and commitment. They're brainwashed to the core pillars of leadership. And I believe that they'll do the right thing. I believe that the military would never turn on the citizenry, and unfortunately there's an argument that says that I'm actually wrong. And that argument is pretty simple. During the Obama years, it was very evident, and I was in the military during that time, it was very evident that we were building political officers instead of American patriots. And that there was many of people out there that it wasn't necessarily save my ass, because you're always going to have those kind of guys in any organization that you go into. But there were a lot of people that were very interested in command billets. In order to do that, you had to be able to show that you would follow orders regardless, no matter what. Now, with all that said, there's a huge difference between the people who are sitting in silos and have keys that make things go boom on the other side of the planet. It's their job to turn those keys on order regardless. But the guy who's on the ground, the guy who's driving his tank, the guy who's commanding people that are going to be pointing weapons at the civilian populace, these are a different breed of people. These are the people that understand that why they're doing these things. And I would probably say that maybe push comes to shove, maybe 10% of them, maybe 10% of the leadership decide to make a really bad decision. And the other 90% of the people that are underneath them say, I'm sorry, but that's an illegal order. And no, we're not doing that. So I have faith that the military would never turn against the civilian populace. But I also believe that they could easily be coaxed into conducting missions on U.S. soil in the name of humanitarian efforts that could easily be turned into something else at some point.
Okay, Eric, you're the furthest removed from this question as far as your background goes. What do you think about the question?
Yeah, I think that there's no easy answer, and I certainly don't profess to have the answer, but I do think that just looking at humanity and understanding how people are, and they can easily be coaxed into doing things that cross a line of morality. If it means that's how you keep your job, if that means how you put food on your table, those good Americans that signed up with good intentions might decide, you know what, I'm going to do what I need to do. And so I think that there are a certain number of people that wouldn't cross that line for moral reasons, because ethically they don't agree with it, and they wouldn't turn on their fellow Americans. But I can almost assure you that there'd probably be a good number of them that would be convinced of doing so. We see that with regard to what happens with the militarization of the police force in this country, and how they can turn on their people because they've been given orders.
Yeah.
That's not an American thing. That's a humanity thing. I was just following orders.
Yep.
And it really bothers me to think that that could be the case, but I don't have any faith that just because somebody put their hand up on the Bible and are just following orders, because they have been brainwashed, they have been indoctrinated. A lot of people in this country have been convinced of certain things, and they're just following what they know. It's called propaganda. I just had someone on, we talked about that the other evening. And so to answer your question, I don't think there is an easy answer for this, but that's kind of my take on it. Is I think that people are people, and people are fallible. We're all fallible, and we can be forced or convinced to make a decision or a judgment based against what we would ordinarily think is moral or ethical. So
Spags is sitting over there looking like a bobblehead. Both listen to local prepper and Porthouse just bobbing around. You got something to add? Look,
Yeah, these are the same publicly educated kids we were just complaining about being order followers 5 minutes ago, man. It doesn't change because you put on a costume. I was a military police officer for 16 years, and I know the conversations I heard these guys say every time they got to go to a music festival. Yeah, they could be in uniform. They couldn't carry a gun, but they could carry that mag light. And they sure as shit beat the hell out of anybody who got drunk and in their face. That's against the law, and they did it anyway. It didn't matter. In fact, the Judge Advocate General at Fort Riley found that most of the things military police did, even on the installation, was unconstitutional. It used to be MPs just walk into your barracks and open your wall locker without a warrant one because it's military property and you thought you could do it. But there's actually nothing in the UCMJ that says you can do that. It's all made up. But because you're on a military installation, no one argued. I certainly didn't. I was a young E3, E4 violating the Constitution left and right because I didn't know any better. I thought this was the Army. This isn't the same. There are no rights here. There certainly were. A lot of stuff got tossed out by the local magistrates because of it. So yeah, I have no doubt that these public educated 18, 19, 20-year-olds, when they're the only people with, potentially the only people who are currently employed because they work for the US government, they most certainly will round you up and put you in a camp if it feeds them. How many of them took the thing, didn't question, just took it? Because that's how they make their livelihood. That's how they get their VA benefits. It's how they get their TRICARE for life, following that order. And now we know it's an unconstitutional order. It's been rolled back. Now we know that thing was never supposed to happen. In fact, in the UCMJ, the only time that certain things can be mandated to be put into your body is before a deployment. They can't even make you take the flu shot stateside, even though they pretend they can. And how many people didn't question? They just went willy-nilly up to the clinics and got it. Because man, this is how I eat. I don't want to get that other than honorable.
Tag, you got anything to add there? You were applauding whenever Spags piped in.
Yeah, there's so much I would say on all of this. I mean, I think Eric had a huge point. The military doing activities against the human populace goes on every freaking day right now. Let's quit pretending it. They're driving MRAPs up and down the streets. Just had one on Topeka Boulevard the other day. I mean, we have military vehicles in our streets. I mean, when's the last time you've seen a police officer dressed like Barney Fife? Right to Eric's point, it don't happen anymore. I mean, the line between the police and the military, I mean, is so blurred now anyway. I think they'll absolutely do it. And I think to Bobby's point, 5 generations of indoctrination, probably more than that, because it's been going back a long time. But generation after generation after generation, the Army, my oldest son served in the Army, and I served in the Army. My dad served in the Army, and his dad served in the Army. And the Army that my son described to me is not the Army that I participated in. It had become totally different, safe space, leave me alone card. You can't yell at me, drill sergeant, just on and on and on and on. So I think they absolutely would. I think the vast majority of them would. I think you're going to have a small percentage of good guys that have been there a little while and gals that have been there a little while that'll hold their ground. But, when I stood up to the financial world over the whole pandemic thing, very few stood with me. I'm going to tell you guys, it was the vast majority. My buddies that have been buddies for a long time. Nope, it was their livelihood. They were more important. It was more important to them than it was to stand up and do it.
You're not wrong, man. MPs are the biggest criminals on the planet.
Sorry, Tag. I didn't mean to derail your thought.
I'm good, man.
I still think you're all wrong.
That's okay.
Well, and I certainly hope that you're right. Seriously, I had some conversations.
Here's why. Not because I'm stubborn, because I am stubborn, but not because of that. There's 2 major things that a lot of people forget about, regardless if they were in the military or not. Okay. The first thing is the UCMJ, and it's there to protect people. Now, people in the military see it as this rule book, this second set of laws that they have to follow. But it's really a set of laws that are set there to maintain good order and discipline. Most people on the enlisted side don't want to hear that. I was enlisted. All right. But it's literally there to keep good order and discipline. That's it. That's all it's there for. The other thing is the code of conduct. Okay, the code of conduct is unanimous throughout the military. It is in every single military service. They don't have one different than the other. They have different little mottos and sayings and songs and stuff like that. But they have a code of conduct. And that code of conduct says that if you are not required to follow an illegal order, it's that easy. Now, I myself, if you guys are old enough, you probably remember the anthrax vaccine. I've got all the vaccines. I've got, when you say vaccine, I've got all of them. Okay. And that's one that I don't have, because when that came out, they were having problems with it immediately. And that went through the E3, E4 network like fire through gasoline. Everybody knew about it. And some people lined up and took it, and other people didn't. You didn't even have to tell them why. You just said, I don't want it. Well, you got to have it for a deployment, because some pencil pusher created a line item with a percentage on it that said that a certain percentage, you had to have a certain percentage of your military organization with that vaccine. Otherwise, you were not considered deployable in that category. I'm here to tell you a whole buttload of units were not deployable in that category, because it only took that E4, E3 network about 6 months for people to realize that was damaging people. Once that happened, It was very simple. You have no obligation to follow an illegal order, and you have the obligation. You are obligated to stop that person from acting on that illegal order, regardless of rank or position. Now, if you follow the simple 10-80-10 rule that a lot of people don't even know about, and we're not talking the prepper rule because everybody loves to go that one. In society, as well as the military, you normally have 10% of the people. These are your stellar performers. These are your heroes. These are the guys that are going to do the right thing every single time. Then you've got 80% of the people that are just average. They just want to get along, and they are basically followers. And then you have another 10% of scumbags. If you follow that simple rule, 90% of the people in the military are going to say no. They're not going to follow that order. They're not going to turn their weapons on the civilian populace. They're not going to be going through, the common, what's the common one? What's the one I hear the most? Presidential Executive Order 33-22 Papa 65 Echo Echo. Have you ever heard of that one? Where they can come into your house and take all your preps. I was like, yeah, but you know what? Can't do the math. How many of them are them, and how many of them are us? And when it really comes down to the food and the water and whatever, do you really think that they're going to have the time to do that? Besides, they have a warehouse full of food. So staying on point, I still believe the military would do the right thing. And God forbid if you have one that does the wrong thing. I think if something bad happened, there would be a lot of guys in uniform that would back up your decision.
Okay. Local prepper. I got a question for local prepper because I'm not a genius, but that math didn't add up to me. If 80% just get along to get along, aren't those the 80% that will just get along to get along?
No, they're followers. They're good people, but they're followers. So they'll follow the other 10%.
Which 10%?
The good 10%.
Well, I'm going to pipe in.
Nobody follows a criminal.
I'm going to pipe in here. I've had discussion with senior staff NCOs about this very subject when I worked for the DOD, and to a person, they all said it came down to leadership. They said that the rank and file will eventually figure out what's right and what's wrong. And the big fear that they had that was on the front end, that the leadership would get them to do something that they should not have done. And then they do something and then like, oh crap, we shouldn't have done that. And then they start turning. And that's just, admittedly, that's anecdotal and it's my personal experience, but I think local prepper makes a great point. It's that it's all about the leadership and what happens at that level.
Yeah, but that's a hit or miss, is it not? And local prepper, I'm not bashing on you, bud, not at all.
No,
and
I'm taking it personally.
I actually pray you're 100% right. But I mean, you say that they're not going to follow the bad guys, except they're following them now. So what makes it any different?
That's what a gang
well, the difference is they're not in direct contact. They're
right?
not in direct contact. That's the difference. And you say they follow. I think that's a perception that we have because we're not in the middle of it. There was it was about a couple years back. There was they allowed this young E3 to be the social media manager for the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Unit. And someone would say something, and this young Marine would instantly go into woke left defensive mode. And they let it go on for a little while until another young Marine at the same rate basically said, "You don't know what you're talking about." And he actually requested mass and talked to the general of the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Unit and said, "This person is making us look bad. Do the right thing." And mysteriously, that person didn't do that job anymore. There's a difference between following something that is administrative, that is not causing any harm, that get along to go along mentality. I'm just following orders, right up to the point where it involves something serious, and then people in the military get serious.
Well, I think it's easy to make a lot of these assumptions in the times that we're in right now. I think that when things change, then perceptions of the people that are following orders or following codes of conduct are going to change as well. And I'm going to stand by with what I said earlier. I don't have the faith that there aren't going to be a certain number of people that are going to do the wrong thing because they're following orders and people are followers. We saw that not too long ago in 2020, did we not? We saw a lot of people just following orders. without questioning things. And that's a very simple mandate. We're not even talking about a time of war. We're not even talking about SHTF. We're not even talking about, hey, we need to do this to secure the country's future. They start pushing that message upon the people that have been given rifles and weaponry. I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to make a decision to turn the wrong way. That's just my personal feeling about it, only because we're making these assumptions right now during peace times.
Oh yeah,
Well-
don't get me wrong. If some young lieutenant shows up on my doorstep with a squad or a platoon, and he's dumb enough to say something, I'm just going to revert, and I'll be like, okay, time to shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
You
we
got
just
me.
got demonetized.
I got to get the first one in.
I thought I had all the questions so that would not be an answer. Okay. You win the apocalypse. I mean, we might as well just finish the feed right
Harmful
now.
content.
We're getting.
But you know what?
flooded
Honestly,
here.
that question did not go like I thought it was going to go, and I really appreciate all the input, and I certainly hope that local prepper is correct. I honestly do, because the repercussions of it not being correct are really kind of scary. It really is. Okay, next question.
Hopefully that gave you guys something to think about. Yeah, they're just opinions. We all have them and they all stink, but there's a lot of it based in reality. All right, if you like what we're doing here, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment. We'd love to know what the hell you think about our crazy-ass tinfoil hat thinking. Yeah, that's what we want. All right, guys, until the next time, stay safe, have a great day, and I shall see you when I see you, which will be in the next episode. Bye-bye.